Hello, my dear friends. You're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 6th of October. Today we have updates, so let's start. And first, we're going to start with Kremenная Kupyansk front line from this area. As you can see, according to the Western sources map, this map shows that the Russians control just the territory along the border of LPR. Furthermore, this map shows that Ukrainians have entered the territory of LPR and managed to take few towns in this area. But if we take a look at the Russian sources map, the map is totally different. And the main difference is on the north, near Kupyansk, in this area. As you can see, according to the Russian sources map, this territory is still under Russian control. Furthermore, the Ukrainians still couldn't establish the stable bridgehead on the east from Kupyansk. These days, previous 24 hours, the Ukrainians were trying to attack the Russians in this area, trying to develop their bridgehead, but they were defeated. And the Russians reported that as a result of that attack, the Ukrainians lost around 120 soldiers and 31 armored vehicles. And that's a lot, because we understand that the most important part of Ukrainian army is their vehicles, tanks, mobile cars, and so on. And every time the Ukrainian loses equipment, it's very difficult for them to renew their possibilities to continue their offensive operation. So that's why the Russians mainly are trying to destroy the Ukrainians' armored vehicles and the best weapon they have. Furthermore, if we're talking about this area, the Russians reported that in Kharkiv district, in a small town by the name of Petrovskaya, they managed to destroy 2 commandos. I'm not sure how did they do this, because this area located very far from the front line, so I believe that maybe the Russians sent some forces, some commandos from their side in this direction or something like this, but something happened there. If we're talking about the front line, the situation has been stabilized. I'm not saying that the Russians managed to stop the Ukrainians. I'm just saying that the Ukrainians stopped. Now they're doing some kind of regrouping. Maybe they're trying to understand the next steps, the next directions they're planning to attack. Who knows? But for now, the situation is stable. The only clashes, the only activity is around Kupyansk, and as you can see according to this map. Furthermore, today the Russians reported that they returned control over this town, Dibrova. I believe that there were no Ukrainians in this town. This town were in the gray zone, but as you know, the Russians during these days, while these small operational posts are trying to build new defense line on this river, Krasny River, Red River on this line, and I believe that they just prepared some kind of checkpoint on the west from Kremenная just for one purpose. If they see the Ukrainians, immediately these forces will retreat from this position and the Russians will understand that Ukrainians are doing something in this direction. I believe that during these days the Russians will try to return back the towns along the front line just with one purpose, to establish some checkpoints and some signal position where they will locate some forces with one purpose, to spot and to locate the Ukrainians. Now we are moving to the south, to the area to Seversk, Bakhmut front line. Today we got a lot of very interesting updates from the Russian side. If we take a look at the south of Bakhmut, you see that there are at least 3 icons in this area saying us that the Russians got control over Adradovka, that the Russians finally managed to push the Ukrainians back from Zaitsevo, and that the Russians established control over Veselaya Dolina. If we take a look at the Western sources map, we won't see these updates on this map, I believe. Yes, we won't see, but according to the Russian sources, now they control something like this, all these towns. And the Russians reported that they continue their movement in direction of Kurdyumovka from this bridgehead, in direction of Andreevka. So, as you can see, the Russians are trying to encircle Bakhmut. Today also we got report from the Russian sources that if we are talking about the number of Ukrainian forces in a town by the name of Bakhmut, the Ukrainians moved around 40,000 soldiers in this area. So as you can see, the Ukrainians also are not planning to give up and to run away from this town. This is a very big fortress. This is a very nice fortification. Every single building in this area is a fortification, fire position, and so on. So it's not going to be a very easy journey for the Russians to storm this town. But I believe that the Russians are not planning to do this directly. So as you can see, as we discussed in a very, very long time ago, the Russians will try to attack Bakhmut through Chasov Yar. So they need to encircle, and of course it's impossible or highly unlikely to complete this mission without taking Solidar and cutting the supply of Bakhmut using the road MO3. I'm not sure that the Russians are planning to storm Bakhmut, and I'm not sure that they're ready to do this right now. For now, they're just preparing the bridgehead around this town, trying to encircle this town step by step, square meter by square meter. I believe that the Russians are waiting for some reinforcement from mobilization, and maybe the Russians are planning to start the storm of Bakhmut during the winter period, because if we are talking about the fields, about the open air battles, it's very difficult to attack on the open fields. But if we're talking about the town battles, the battles in the city, the winter doesn't affect the offensive capabilities of any forces. So that's why the Russians, I believe that they have prepared the ground for the upcoming winter storm of Bakhmut, of encirclement and attack of this area. So this is going to be the winter campaign from the Russian side, the storm of Bakhmut and Chasov Yar. And by the next spring of the next year, the Russians will be able to start their offensive operation in direction of Slaviansk, Kramatorsk, and Drushkovka, Konstantinovka, in this area, if nothing changes during this period. If we are talking about this area, during the previous 24 hours, the Ukrainian losses were around 120 soldiers. Their main losses were around 10 Zaitseva. The Ukrainians, the 58th and 128th Brigade in this area mainly has the losses that the Russians were reported. Now we are moving to the Donetsk, the capital of DPR. As you can see, the front line is stable as well. There is no changes. The Russians during the previous weeks reported about establishing control over Pervomaiskaya, but for now the map hasn't been updated. Maybe that was some kind of reco in combat, maybe the Russians controlled just a part of this town, maybe the Ukrainians did some counter-offensive operation in this area and returned this town. For now, there is like a fog of war to understand the real picture. But anyway, I'm not sure that the Russians have enough of manpower to develop any offensive operation on any front line, and just the only thing they can do and the only thing they need to do is to defend themselves and to defend the territory they managed to establish control over this year, not to allow the Ukrainians or to reduce their possibilities of returning the territory that the Ukrainians are doing right now. And if we're talking about Zaporizhzhia front line, today the Russians reported that they also attacked a small town on the north of Velika Novosilovka, Novokamar, this one. They attacked the 56th Mechanized Brigade in this area, and the losses of that brigade in this area is around 60 soldiers and 7 armored vehicles. The front line is stable as well. The only update, the only interesting information we got from this front line, and then there is an icon about that Ukrainians prepares for the third counter-offensive operation, massive counter-offensive operation in the Zaporizhzhia area. They don't have much time for this, because in a month it will be highly unlikely to develop anything in the south. So they have just these upcoming 3 weeks, because the Russians they are doing very smart. We know that the Russians started mobilization process, but the thing is that the Russians made a very interesting decision. You know that there is a lot of military bases on the territory of Russian Federation, but they decided to train these forces, these mobilized forces, not on the territory of Russian Federation. The Russians opened a lot of training centers in Zaporizhzhia area and LPR area. So I know for sure that maybe even more than 50,000 soldiers have already arrived on this territory. They are not involved on the combats on the front line, but they are trained on the territory already on this territory. So we can see that the Russians move more and more forces, and in 3 weeks or maybe in a month it will be highly unlikely to do anything from the Ukrainian side. If we're talking about the Ukrainians on this front line, of course they have at least 3 targets, main targets in this area. The first one, let's take a look at the Western sources map. The first target is to attack in direction of Energodar and Zaporizhzhia power plant. This is a vital question for the Ukrainians to make and to, I don't know, to have some electricity in energy facilities. The winter is coming, and I believe that with this power plant, for them it will be much more easier to survive during the winter period. Another direction that Ukrainians can choose to attack is the south of this area, in this direction. If we're talking about this area, and if the Ukrainians are able to get this area, then from this territory they will be able to attack the Crimea Bridge. As you can see, the Crimea Bridge is located just in 170 kilometers. And as you know, the Ukrainians, they were supplied from the United States of America with the rockets that can cross this distance easily. So this might be the second target that Ukrainians might choose during this period. And the third area the Ukrainians can attack is, of course, Mariupol. So these three media places where the Ukrainians can achieve significant media success. And if they're able to achieve one of these, or maybe all of these media success, I believe that they will receive more weapon, more finance, and so on. So 3 points: the Zaporizhzhia power plant, Berdyansk, the south of Zaporizhzhia area, and from this area they will be able to start destroying the Crimea Bridge. And if they are able to destroy Crimea Bridge, and if they are able to cut this territory in two pieces, the Russians will lose any supply and any support on the ground of Crimea and of Zaporizhzhia forces. So, of course, this is very important. And Mariupol is just the media victory. There is no, I don't know if there is no benefits from this town. It's just the media victory that we returned the town that the Russians were storming during the first stage of this military special operation. These three targets that Ukrainians will try to achieve, and the Russians need to understand what direction did the Ukrainians choose. Because for now, I believe that there is a spy game between parties. And now they're trying to understand what their opponent is planning to do. Now we're moving to Kherson district. The front line in this area also has been stabilized. No movements from the Ukrainian side. Yesterday we got some interesting update that the Russians left Snigirivka, but this information haven't been confirmed. So I believe that this town is still under the Russian control. And if we're talking about the Krivorozhsky front line, this is Krivorozhsky front line, the area that's located on the south of the town Krivorog. The Ukrainians during the previous 24 hours lost another 100 soldiers and something around 23 armed vehicles. The Ukrainians were trying to develop their offensive operation in this area, like Dutchany, Nova Kakhovka, in direction of Sukhanova, Chervony Yar. So they were planning to develop, and of course they want to get to Berislav, to this area, and to reach this side of the river Dnieper and to attack Nova Kakhovka, where the main Russian warehouses are located, and supply roads as well. But they were stopped and were defeated. Another attack was in direction from David Brody, but the Ukrainians were also defeated in this area. Furthermore, the Russians reported that they destroyed at least 3 pontoon bridges along the Ingulets River just to slow down the Ukrainians. But anyway, the Ukrainians were slowed down. I'm not saying that the Ukrainians were defeated or they can't continue. I believe that the Ukrainians decided to stop, and I believe that if the Ukrainians are planning to start any counter-offensive operation during the next period, I believe that they are planning to start 3 offensive operations at the same time. In Kherson direction, in Zaporizhzhia direction, and in Kharkiv direction. There are going to be 3 grand battles all along the front line. And I believe that it would be very difficult for the Russians to hold the Ukrainians because they don't have endless amount of artillery, of rockets, and so on. So that's why they will have to make a decision which region has the bigger priority for them and which has the less. So this is a very interesting period of time, but I believe that the Russians are able to defeat the Ukrainians on every single front line, then they will be able to start counter-offensive operation. And that means that the Russians will have something around 1 or 2 weeks for their counter-offensive operation. And during their counter-offensive operation, they may return every single region they lost during the previous months, that they lost in September and in August. So I'm talking about Kharkiv area, and the north of Kherson area. It's always like this. So if the Ukrainians start their counter-offensive operation, I believe that their counter-operation will take at least 3 to 3 weeks before they achieve success or they will be defeated. And after that, the Russians will have around 1 or 2 weeks to start and to do their counter-offensive operation. And during this their counter-offensive operation, they will be able to do something. But another important thing that, of course, during the Russian counter-offensive operation, it's very possible that the Russians might encircle some Ukrainian forces that will be involved very deep in Ukrainian counter-offensive operation. So everything is very difficult, but I believe that soon we are going to understand what's going on. If we are talking about in Nikolaev area, about this area, the total losses of the Ukrainians on this front line is around 280 soldiers and 9 armored vehicles in this area. So as you can see, everything is very unpredictable, but I believe that soon we are going to understand everything. And that's it for today. Military Summer channel reminds that we condemn any violence in Ukraine. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.